Right, so to get into remove the inner tractor joint on the inside here, we're going to have to be able to lift this top A arm up and out of the way, which means removing the shock absorber and the spring. Now there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to use the actual way listed in the manual, which is to remove the wings, and this makes it easy to remove the shock absorber and spring, but obviously you do have the difficulty of having to remove the wiring for your lights, smoke discharger, front lights, and that sort of stuff. So just pulling off what I can. Removed the fire extinguisher. One thing I did find when I pulled the fire extinguisher off here was it was actually very difficult to get out of the clamp, even though I'd opened the clamps up. It had kind of semi-welded to these rubber points on the mount. It hadn't been out in a long time. Took quite a bit of effort to remove, so it might be worth just checking you can get your fire extinguishers out of the mounts without too much difficulty. Obviously when you need them, I'm sure you won't want to fight with them to get them out, or somebody perhaps that's not as familiar with them may not be as confident as you are in snatching them out of the mounts. So worth just checking they are free and accessible. Anyway, we're going to remove this top mount. This is the lifting eye for the Ferret. Bolts down onto the top of the shock absorber mount there. I'm just going to take that out of the way as one of the steps of removing the wing. Okay, so just getting. Okay, so I've got these couple of bolts here loosened off for this top lifting eye. So just take these out, and the lifting eye comes off the top. Okay, so the next step is to remove some of the wiring for these electrical items here. I'm not too sure whether I can get away with perhaps just undoing some of these fixings in here, loosening off the cables, and hinging the wheel arch up and out of the way. So going to give that a go and go from there. Just going to loosen off these fixings so we can get in the top of the smoke grenade launchers. There's these three that's trying to do to get in the top. Okay, so inside here you can see we've got a cable which is disconnected. The connector block in here actually just has a single ground, so there's only a single cable feed to the smoke dischargers. So you should just be able to, in this case, pull that out of there. That's easy. And that cable will just push down through the wing grommet. So now we'll have a look at the light here. Take the front off the light here. Just going to undo these clamps. Okay, so taking the front off the headlamp here, and just remove the connector from the bulb. So I'll put this out the way somewhere safe. Okay, and in here we can see there's the 2 wires here for the bulb. You can see one's for the dip, one's for the main. So I don't know whether these are marked up, so I'll just mark those up before pulling them back through. Okay, so I marked up these cables as a dip and main. I can just undo the connector on the back. Pull these cables back through, and again now that can just be pulled down through the grommet here, and that'll be the second cable out of the way. And the last connectors will be for the indicators, side lights, and looking in the back of this one, I'll have a look, see whether they're easy to disconnect or whether it might be better just to leave those connected, which I think it's easier to leave those connected. And I'll just undo some of these clamps here, and when we take the wing off, I can just put that out of the way in front of the vehicle, using the slack on the cable. Okay, so started to undo these connectors. So I've taken the one off here off this cable and the one off here, which bolted through onto the aerial storage tube. The mount was there, it's now down on there. These were 7/16, and the nuts on here are 1/2 inch. What I've done is removed the nuts from the inside of the wing here, underneath. Left one in there just to hold it for the minute. And now I'm just going to take these off, which bolt through into the side of the bin. If we just have a look in the bin here. So inside the bin you can see there's these nuts here, and you can see that it's actually bolted on to the hull as well. Okay, so for access to these bolts down this side, what I've done is dropped the spare wheel off the side with the escape hatch. You can see that's off. See inside the Ferret there. Just gives us a bit of access to get into these bolts, make life a bit easier. Okay, carry on taking these off. So I've removed that bin. You can see I've just popped the fixing bolts back in there, just to so I know where they are and don't get lost. So hopefully now I can remove the wing here and put that round the front of the vehicle, because although I've disconnected the wiring for the lights, you can see that's out, and the wiring for the smoke discharger, that's out, the wiring here is still connected, so I'm going to try and pull this out and just swing it round in front of the vehicle for the moment, so it's out of the way. Got the wing off. You can see just laid that in front of the vehicle there, on top of the turret actually, which is off the vehicle currently. And you can see we've now got access to the front hub and the spring, which we'll need to remove along with the shock absorber to get access to the rear tractor or the inner tractor housing. One thing I have noticed when I'm under here, this vehicle's new to me, but whoever's fitted the new mount for the fire extinguisher has used some self-tappers through there, which being over the wheel station doesn't look all that sensible. I'll either cut those down or replace them with some bolts, just to avoid any damage to the tyre if we go over some rough terrain and it does come up close to the underside of the wing. There should be enough clearance because they are very tight up under there, but yeah, not good. Or if you get a hand under there to lift the wing away, obviously cause yourself some damage. So yeah, when you're working on these vehicles, always look out for other things to tidy up.